Hey folks, happy May. More accurately, happy Cinco de Mayo, or the 5th of May. How are you guys doing? Tonight's episode is going to be a pretty in-depth episode of the Whitfield Report. We talk about Kanye West's interview on TMZ, and I'm really going to be talking about cultural Marxism in this show and how it got started here in this country. I have a clip from Andrew Breitbart talking about that subject that I'm going to be playing later on in the show. And I'm going to be dissecting Kanye West's groundbreaking interview on TMZ that occurred earlier this week. People were asking me to review that interview. I was going to do it Thursday, but I decided to save it for the show. So I'm doing that for tonight's episode, and I want to thank you for listening to the audio podcast. As always, you can catch the live streams of this podcast on our YouTube channel, 8 p.m. Eastern, Saturday nights. Go to the Sam Whitfield and follow the link to the YouTube channel from our website at thesamwhitfield.com. And folks, be sure to support me on Patreon too by going to patreon.com/Whitfield. For just $1 a month. $1 a month, you can support this podcast and everything else I'm doing. I really appreciate it, and without further ado, let's start the show. Thank you for listening, folks. God bless. And we are live. Good evening, folks. Welcome to the Whitfield Report. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, broadcasting live from NGC TV studios here in South Florida. And I want to thank you for tuning in to another edition of the Whitfield Report. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at SamDavier_NGC, hashtag Whitfield Report. You can also follow the Whitfield Report on Twitter at Whitfield Report. You can follow me on Gab at Sam Whitfield and on Instagram at SamW_NGC, Facebook.com/Whitfield Report. And as always, you can go to thesamwhitfield.com. You can also subscribe to the audio version of this podcast on iTunes or by going to anchor.fm/Whitfield Report and clicking on any of the links. We're available wherever you get your audio podcast from. Anyway, folks, like I said, I want to thank you for joining me for tonight's show. Very rarely do I repeat a topic or expand upon a topic from a previous show. But last week I talked about Kanye West's new single, Ye versus the People. And I spent basically the entire hour and a half of the show discussing why Kanye West's new openness to the MAGA movement is so key to what we're trying to do in terms of influence the culture. Now, I've gotten a lot of pushback, and there's been a lot of pushback in the past week from conservatives who are saying that we shouldn't be so quick to embrace Kanye. There's been pushback from commentators like Tommy Lahren, who I'll get to in a bit. We actually have that clip, who are saying that conservatives are foolish to embrace Kanye West so quickly. And to them, I say that this is simply not true. First off, I want to make something clear. Just because I like what Kanye West is doing so far does not mean that I'm all of a sudden loyal to him 100%. I'm not fully look, if he does go off the reservation and start endorsing crazy SJW theories 24/7, then yeah, obviously I'm out. But what Kanye West is doing right now, and yes, I know he said that Emma Gonzalez is his hero, but what he's doing right now is he's starting a conversation. He's opening a dialogue about having a dialogue in this country between people who disagree with each other. So it's amusing because you have people in the conservative movement who are saying that he's not conservative enough, that he's simply critiquing, that he's simply, espousing SJW theories and pretending to be a conservative. And then you have the left who is saying that, he's basically an alt-right neo-Nazi, which is absurd. And then you have anyone who's actually been paying attention to this thing with any sort of neutral view, with any sort of open view like I've been doing, because like I said, I'm not a huge Kanye West fan. I don't love him. I don't hate him. I've been pretty indifferent to him up to this point. So I'm just looking at this from a stance of like a neutral party. I'm more curious than anything at this point as to what he's up to. But I have to say, so far I like what I'm hearing. Now, earlier this week, he did an interview with TMZ, and basically, which he explained to himself why he is making the change, why he's on, I don't want to really say the warpath because that's not the right term, but why he's on the path to change minds and influence hearts and win people over. He did this interview with TMZ, which publicly it was edited and cut short. But I have the full extended interview where he basically confronts a whole bunch of liberals, far liberals. I mean, it's the paparazzi in TMZ in their own offices, mind you. And he starts asking them questions and giving his reasoning for why he's supporting Trump and, why he's made this sudden change. And you can visibly see that people in this room are moved. He's with Candace Owens, and you can see a little bit of her in the script, but basically this is the interview that's been making the rounds the big week. So I'm going to go ahead and dissect this interview. I'm going to play a segment of it and break it down for you. And we're basically going to do a breakdown of this Kanye West interview with TMZ and what it means, because I think it I think it's very important to understand what's going on here. So we are going to break that down because that was a request that I got from people this week, was to break down the TMZ interview. So without further ado, here is the extended cut of Kanye West's interview with TMZ. This is from Tuesday of this past week. Cut number 1, go.
Based on what you've just said here, it sounds to me you got precisely the reaction you wanted by wearing that hat.
I didn't want a reaction.
You wanted a reaction.
No.
You knew there was going to be a reaction.
I knew there was going to be a reaction, but I'm just living my life day by day, doing what I feel and what the Spirit calls upon me to do.
But it also opens up this dialogue that you're not apologizing, because everybody else, when they make a statement like that, they end up apologizing because they're so worried about what people say on social media.
Well, you know why when I went to visit him the first time, right
after the election.
Yeah, and I took the tweets down and everything.
Yeah.
Because I was drugged the fuck out, bro. I was drugged out. I was on opioids. 2 days after I got off of opioids, and I was addicted to opioids, 2 days I got off of opioids, I'm in the hospital, right? I'm taking hey, everyone listen to this, please. 2 days before I was in the hospital, I was on opioids. I was addicted to opioids. I had plastic surgery because I was trying to look good for y'all. I got liposuction because I didn't want y'all to call me fat like y'all called Rob at the wedding and made him fly home before me and Kim got married. I didn't want y'all to call me fat, so I got liposuction, right? And they gave me opioids, right? And I started taking 2 of them and then driving to work on the opioids, right? Then my boy, and I'd always ask my boy, to hand me if it's, we on tour, give me some weed, blah, blah, blah. So he had to go give me the opioids. And there was talks amongst my camp, like, Ye's popping pills, right? So when he handed this to me, he said, this is used to kill genius, right? So I didn't take it. 2 days later, I'm in the hospital. I was taking 2 pills a day at that time. When I left the hospital, how many pills you think I was given?
Okay. Now, this is a big point of contention that people are making. Why is Kanye West talking about pills? Why is he bringing up pills? This is a big criticism that a lot of people on both the left and the right. Well, he's talking about his past, right, and how he's, been taking pills and how he's been heavily drugged up, or as he likes to say, drugged the fuck out to do his performances. He's admitting he has demons, and he's admitting that this is a struggle for him. But he's going to be talking about how this has changed for him. Keep on watching. It's interesting.
7. I went from taking 2 pills to taking 7. So the reason why I denounced, why I dropped those tweets and everything, because I was drugged the fuck out, bro. And I'm not drugged out. These pills that they want me to take 3 of a day, I take 1 a week, maybe 2 a week. Y'all had me scared of myself, of my vision. So I took some pills so I wouldn't go to hospital and prove everyone right. We are drugged out. We are following other people's opinions. We are controlled by the media. And today it all changes.
Okay, now he is speaking metaphorically, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the one thing that I have loved seeing about the new Kanye West so far. He speaks a lot in metaphors. No, of course, obviously not everyone in America is drugged out right now. Literally. But a lot of us are on drugs in terms of, the mainstream media, whose opinions we follow. There are lots of people who are just sheep, who don't look at other opinions, who can't have a level of debate. So he's speaking in metaphors right now. And for those of you listening on the audio podcast, I'll explain the visuals of this here in a sec, but what you're going to see here is a noticeable shift in the room here in just one sec. It's amazing to watch, honestly. It really is.
Tupac and Lennon in that hallway. Today, it all changes. We need to think how to think free. We need to be free thinkers. Then we need to learn how to feel free. People say feel free, but we don't even know how to feel free or think free. Say what you feel, positive or negative. I just got off the phone with J. Cole. He said, how you feel when they said the Crips is gonna kill you? I said, man, that was the headline. But when they said they wanted to beat me up, I said, that's great. They're my brothers. They love me. They don't want nothing to happen to Ye. They just want to beat some sense into me. I love Daz. I love the Crips. I love the Bloods. I love everyone. How many people how many people felt something that I said today? Raise a hand if you felt something that I said today.
Now, for those of you listening on the audio podcast, this is fascinating. Because, right, the TMZ offices, it's a square room, and there are several desks all lined up, and people are raising their hand in a row, responding to Kanye's question. So it definitely is interesting. It's powerful to see. Is YouTube, and I'm getting a notification now that YouTube may be blocking this stream. So for those of you, if you can't see that, can anyone in the chat let me know if you can still see the stream? Let me know.
Do you feel that I'm feeling? Do you feel that I'm being free and I'm thinking free?
Yes.
I actually don't think you're thinking anything. I think what you're doing right now is actually the absence of thought. And the reason why I feel like that, because Kanye, you're entitled to your opinion. You're entitled to believe whatever you want. But there is fact and real world, real life consequence behind everything that you just said. And while you are making music and being an artist and living the life that you've earned by being a genius, the rest of us in society have to deal with these threats to our lives. We have to deal with the marginalization that has come from the 400 years of slavery that you said for our people was a choice. Every day we have to walk into that truth while you choose to say things that, to be honest with you, dog, are nonsensical. You want to think freely? That's fine. I'll combat your free thought with my free thought because mine is grounded in a reality that I've been given and a reality that I'm going to change, but I'm not going to do it by pretending that the enemies are on the same team as me. And frankly, I'm disappointed.
Okay, this is very interesting to see what's going on. This guy who is in the TMZ office, I don't know his name, but this individual is basically accusing Kanye West of teaming up with the enemy. Okay? That is what the left is calling conservatives. They're calling us the enemy. We're the enemy. This is the language of cultural Marxism. It's crap. And Kanye's response to this is, I was even shocked the last time that I saw this. The first time that I saw this, rather.
I'm appalled, and brother, I am unbelievably hurt by the fact that you have morphed into something, to me, that's not real. That's the way I feel. Stand on all the coffee tables you want to stand on. Say whatever you want to say, but don't throw a stone, then hide your hand like the rest of us are just going to swallow it. Yay, be yay. I'm off it forever. Do you. But remember, the life that I live is as a real person, an actual person.
Now, the thing is, he said grounded in reality. This reality has been forced upon us. It is a choice. Just like when I said slavery is a choice. The reality, we can make our own reality.
Now, when Kanye West refers to slavery here, folks, he's not talking about literal slavery. Obviously, he knows that wasn't a choice. But what he's referring to in the slavery thing is that people are mental slaves, particularly on the left. They're slaves of this mindset that they're victims, that they're oppressed. Again, Kanye West here is combating cultural Marxism in a big way, ladies and gentlemen.
Talk about history, but not too long. We need to talk about our now, because we can fix and start loving each other now. When I say we have no enemies, we don't have enemies.
We need to talk about our history, but not for too long. We need to talk about now. That is so true. What he's saying is 100% true. And like I said on the show last week, this is what Star Parker and Alan West and Herman Cain and all of these other black conservative activists and commentators have been saying for years. But why hasn't it gotten noticed? Well, because these individuals are political people. They're not in the sphere of pop culture like Kanye West is. This is one of the reasons why Kanye's free thought movement is so important, because it's not coming from an intellectual or a commentator. It's not coming from someone like me. It's coming from a music icon, a pop culture icon. They're the ones who are changing things. Let's check the chat. Okay. B West says it's live watching on Periscope, and also it's live on both. Okay, that's good. YouTube gave me a notification that the content may be blocked on here, and that's always a little freaky. I mean, I'm talking over this video as I'm going along, so, I'm well within my rights for fair use, but YouTube always does this. So anyway, Continuing on, this is really powerful stuff.
Black people have a tendency to focus and march when a white person kills a black person or wears a hat. But when it's 700 kids being killed in Chicago, it's okay. It's okay for blacks to kill blacks. But if it's a white thing...
I don't think anybody's saying that's okay.
There's been more focus and more marches
that is a lie.
about whites killing blacks than kids in Chicago killing each other.
That's a lie. There are black people working...
There are no marches.
90% of black people getting killed are killed by other blacks.
That's a fact.
The black homicide rate is a fact.
That is a fact.
Black on black crime is a fact.
But there are black people.
Okay, wait a second. Now this is a problem. We have to. You're too far. You have to be closer to me.
I'm here right now. There are black people working every single day.
Brother, don't scream because it will make us look. Crazy.
I don't care how we look in front of this. You're talking some bullshit.
No, when you scream and you don't talk, it doesn't look right.
Let me just say something.
Let me impart this upon you.
Okay, this is a perfect example of what I'm talking about, because these are two different versions of somebody else's truth. This is two different versions of somebody else's truth. So he gets up and he's talking slavery, right? Okay, I'm not enslaved, so that it's like I don't mean to insult his reality.
No, Kanye, come on over.
I just wanted to give him a hug.
Right. Like, I don't mean to.
No, I think he might want to punish me, but I want to give him a hug.
Okay, but like.
Let's finish the conversation and then we'll...
What Kanye just
I love you, and I want to give you a hug. I feel like you want to fight me right now, but I love you.
I don't fight with my fists, man. I've been through that. This is what I'm saying.
So if I come over there, you're not going to fight me?
No, I'm not going to hit Kanye West and TMZ. Bro, you got to be responsible.
This is actually a very moving moment here, ladies and gentlemen. At least to me, it is very moving. I wouldn't go so far as to say that this is Kanye West, Martin Luther King moment. I wouldn't go that far. But I would go so far as to say that Kanye West, in this clip, is acting an awful lot like Martin Luther King here, in the sense that he is diffusing the tension in the room with a dialogue and with non-violence, and he's offering to give this guy a hug, which is profound. He doesn't want to, quote unquote, fight his enemy. He wants to love people, and he doesn't see people as his enemies either. He doesn't even see the Bloods and the Crips who are threatening to kill him as his enemies. He wants to have a dialogue with them too. And I think we've become so used to, especially in the hip hop genre, in the hip hop and rap genre, to people talking about gangbang, doing drive-bys and gang rapes and gangbangs, that this is very unreal for a rapper, a hip-hop star to do this, and so people they don't know quite what to make of it. It's foreign to them. So, for those of you watching on the video, you can see this. For those of you listening in the audio, Kanye West is literally walking over to this reporter, and he's going to give him a hug, and they're going to have they're going to continue a dialogue about this. This is rather brilliant, I think.
Man.
Bro, I'm sorry I hurt you.
You gotta be responsible, dog.
I'm sorry I hurt you, bro.
Your voice is too big. You gotta
I'm sorry I hurt you, bro. I love you, bro. I'm sorry I hurt you with my words, bro. I love you, bro.
Man.
Bro,
gotta be responsible.
I didn't mean to say things that hurt you. I didn't mean to wear the hat out the blue and shock so many people and not give them a way out of the pain. I understand that gave them pain, that made them see pain. But guess what? When I went into the hospital, we're now in the hospital. TMZ is the hospital to fix the world. Obama was our opioids. It made us feel like everything was good.
That's not true, bro.
Yeah.
That's not true. Listen, first of all, calmly.
What's your name, though?
I'm Van.
I'm sorry for disappointing you, Van.
Yeah, listen. Calmly.
Yeah.
What you said up there a second ago, the statistic on black on black violence is true. What they don't tell you is there are people dedicating their lives to working throughout the problems of black people. There are black people every day, boots on the ground. They're all over the place that are working towards this. Like every single day, people are trying to fix this problem. The narrative that black people don't care about black lives until a white person takes them is false. That is not true. But
I would ask this reporter, this TMZ reporter, because what he's saying is true, ladies and gentlemen. What he's saying is absolutely true. But I would ask this TMZ reporter why you're not hearing about the black activists trying to help inner city crime. Why aren't you hearing about this? Right? We always hear about innocent black kids being slaughtered in Chicago every weekend on a repeated basis. Why aren't we hearing about these help organizations that are trying to help inner city organizations? I have a theory. I think the media wants to continue to perpetuate the stereotype that all black people are oppressed and we need the government to take care of them. That is the long and short of it in my book. Anyway, continuing on. Hey, Kimmy, thanks for tuning in.
the problem is the people that are doing this work in communities every day, guys all over the place, they don't get the type of reverence, they don't get the type of shine, they don't get the type of light spotted on them, the spotlight, should I say, that other people do. Those people are the ones that need to be empowered, the people that can help Chicago, that can help South Baton Rouge, that can help those places, that are working there every day.
Again, why are we not hearing about this? It's because the media, and unfortunately TMZ is part of this, they want to perpetuate this stereotype. Maybe not the reporters themselves, but I think the higher ups who are in bed with the deep state, they all want to continue this narrative that black people are oppressed and that they need government assistance. It's really that simple.
Doing it, and they dedicating their lives to it. But they don't get big up by rappers. They don't get invited to things. They do it for nothing because they have to. So what I'm trying to say is, while we have all of these conversations about stuff that gets covered on the news, who's going to talk about what doesn't get covered on the news? Like, to me, for me, for a lot of years, the dude that inspired me to be more than what I was in Baton Rouge, that was you. Ask everybody in this room for years. Ask everybody in here how many times we've had a Kanye West story and I've stood there, the only person to defend Kanye West because of what you meant to me. And then after that, you slap me in my fucking face by getting next to people who mean me harm and who don't even care about being honest about the fact that they mean me harm.
I think that we have to get next to everyone. We don't like Trump. We have to talk to them. We have to talk because Trump is a human being also, and he's in a very powerful position, and he's doing a lot of things to actually help business owners be able to go past all these fake laws and rules and things. I mean, candidates can give you the facts better than that, but we need to speak to people. Einstein says the definition of insanity is doing the same thing, expecting a different result. So we keep on saying, I hate you, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. How are we going to get a different result out of hate? Why don't we just try love? Why don't we just try love? Why can't it be okay for an influential rapper in the black community to go up to the president and talk to him about how we can make a change one by one? We have the resources for a peaceful world. I believe that Kim Jong-un didn't believe that Obama was crazy enough to come at him. You know, sometimes you need some crazy motherfuckers to change something. Steve Jobs is crazy. Now we all on Steve Jobs' phones. They say Trump's crazy. They say I'm crazy. But I'm here to show love. And we're going to make it through. I know I disappointed you today, brother. And I know I disappointed the black community when I wore the hat. And I'm sorry for disappointing you. But like I just told J. Cole on the phone right now, it's a bigger plan. And I'm just doing what the universe told me.
So that is the extended interview of Kanye West on TMZ. Not really an interview, more like a full segment, but this is powerful stuff. And this was in the headlines for days. And this is the reason why this is groundbreaking is this is the first time in my life that I can think of where we have actually had a dialogue about difference of opinion in this country. And it's also been a dialogue, the first time we've had a dialogue nationally, about why it is that black people are not being, why the African American community is being forced over to the left repeatedly. Kanye West speaks in metaphors a lot of the time, ladies and gentlemen. That's one thing I've noticed about him. He speaks in metaphors, right? TMZ, we're in the hospital now, right? That's what he said. TMZ is the hospital to help heal the world, right? At the beginning of the show, he was talking about how he was on opioids and he was drugged out, and then he took that and made that about how America and the world is on opioids with political division, how we're not having dialogues with each other. So no, he might not be a full-on right-wing conservative. He might not fully be MAGA 100%, although he appears to be doing that more and more. He just seems to be a guy who wants to start a dialogue about having dialogues with people of different opinions in this country. And is that honestly so bad? Is that so bad? To want to have a dialogue with people you disagree with? No, I try to have dialogues with people I agree with. And when I mean dialogues, I mean actual conversations, not shouting matches where people get pissed off and start shouting. When I was younger, I used to be more of like an argumentative debater, but now that I've gotten older, I really do try and limit my use of shouting, and I really try not to be argumentative. I'm not perfect at it. There are still topics, and there are still times where I will get righteously indignant and start shouting, and where I'll start going Michael Savage on people. I'm not admitting to being perfect, but I think within the last year and a half, since I ended the Whitfield Analysis, which was my old podcast, and since I began the Whitfield Report, my goal with this show has been to open more of a dialogue with people, right? I'm still the same conservative libertarian guy that I've always been, but rather than focusing on strictly politics, and rather than trying to be the next Rush Limbaugh, quote unquote, which when I started podcasting 10 years ago, right, I was still a teenager. I was 13 years old, and there were other teenage conservatives, and we all wanted to be the next Rush Limbaugh. All of us. Maybe it wasn't Rush Limbaugh, maybe it was Sean Hannity for some, maybe it was Ann Coulter. But for, pick a name in the conservative media sphere, everyone wanted to be, the next someone. Now as I got older, I 15, 16, 17, I began to recognize the validity of having my own brand, doing my own thing. I've taken a bit of influence from every single one of my influences to create my own style. Whether it be a little bit of Rush, a little bit of Hannity, a little bit of Levin, a little bit of Dennis Prager, a little bit of Dennis Miller, babe, I've made that into my own brand, and with the Whitfield Report, I kind of rebranded this show when I relaunched as the Whitfield Report last year, and it's been a big hit so far. I talk about conversations outside of politics too. I do movie reviews and I'll do pop cultural stuff. Why? Because politics is downstream from culture, and I believe it's important that we have a dialogue on multiple fronts about multiple things. And I realize I'm just one guy with a YouTube channel and a podcast, but I have talked to people recently who have otherwise never considered listening to conservative podcasts, and they like my show because they think I'm even keeled, that I don't yell, I don't obsess over, one particular topic. I don't call the listeners idiots if they don't agree with me 100% of the time. I try to be, even if I'm not fair and balanced like Fox News is, I admit to having a bias. That's the other thing. I'm upfront about it. But I'm fair with how I present things. Now, I bring none of that up to toot my own horn, but I bring that all up to show to people that it's not impossible to have this sort of dialogue. And I think Kanye West is doing a similar thing in his interview with TMZ, in his interview with InfoWars, in his new single, Ye Versus the People, which I read some of the lyrics from on last week's show. This is groundbreaking stuff. It really is. That's happening here in America. And let me read through some of the comments real quick before we continue on. I've kind of ignored the chat here for most of the podcast, so let's continue. Let's see. Dax says, nice hat. Josh says, hey Sam, here to do my thing. B West, hey, watching on Periscope, and it's live on both. Oh, yeah, that's in response to my earlier question. There's some interaction on the chat. Dax says, LOL, the look on that guy's face next to Kanye. Yeah, man, I mean, that was the interesting thing. I don't think people didn't know what to expect from this interview. It was pretty clear to me that was the case. Kimmy says, salty. Let's see. Stephanie says, I haven't seen the whole exchange, but saw a little bit on Neri. I can't see how anyone is saying Trump is directly trying to harm them, just my 2 cents. Yeah, exactly. And that would have been the other question. If I were Kanye, and if I were in that room, I would have asked the guy how Trump was hurting him directly. I would have asked that question if I were Kanye West. I would have said, how is Trump hurting you directly? Right? Because we hear that all the time from the left, that Trump's policies are quote unquote hurting the black community. We hear that a lot. But yet we rarely get an explanation on the specifics of how Trump's policies are harming people. Rarely. Right? Not that I can think of, at least. Okay, let's see. Let's see. Kanye did InfoWars. Yeah, I think he did. I know that Candace did InfoWars, and I know that Kanye was going to do InfoWars, but then he got into like a tweet scuffle with Ben Shapiro, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit. But yeah, overall, this interview is powerful stuff. And for those conservatives who are still in doubt as to whether or not Kanye West is being effective or not, and as to whether or not this is real, I mean, because believe me, I've even had like a lot of conservatives who have been on me for the past week saying, Sam, how can you just jump ahead and jump on board the Kanye West train fully? He's not a conservative, and don't be fooled. Something smells fishy. I understand that, folks, too. I really do. I understand the skepticism with Kanye. I do. I wasn't so sure this thing was copacetic last week either. Even when I was analyzing the song, I wasn't fully certain of whether or not this was a good move. But then something interesting happened at my college last week. I had a young black man, one of my peers, who shall remain nameless. And he's a nice dude. Kind of very apolitical. As is the case with most college students I know. I realize I'm an anomaly too. With being interested in politics. Like, there are, like, all of the college students who are into politics and into policy, like, we're all nerds. I get that. But this student was a young black man, and I know him, and I know he's into hip hop. And I assumed I had never really started a dialogue with him about politics, because I assumed that it just wasn't something that we were going to agree on. And so I wasn't going to be the one to, start something that could become confrontational and whatnot. Believe me, I do plenty of standing on my soapbox and espousing my political views on this show and in my political columns. I really don't need the stress of bringing it on to my college campus with me. With that being said, it was interesting because following the Ye versus the People single being released, this guy came up to me and started asking me questions about Trump and about the Make America Great Again movement. And he was more or less just asking me my opinions on what that meant. And so, I explained to him how I view conservatism and how I view libertarianism, how I believe that America is the greatest country on the face of the earth, where each individual person can forge their own path through hard work and through faith and through moral ethics, and how people can be industrious and go on to create great things in this country, and how this country has afforded me the opportunity to succeed as a young man with physical disabilities. It was a very good conversation, not a long one. It wasn't like we sat down and had a long 35-40 minute chat. This was only like 5 minutes that we had in between classes. But nonetheless, the fact that he said that he was curious about Trump and Make America Great Again after hearing this Kanye West single tells me that whatever people are saying about Kanye West, and however skeptical people might be about this, at first glance, Kanye is definitely doing something notable here. And for the moment, I wholeheartedly support it. Now, Tomi Lahren made a video. She's a Fox News contributor now. In the past, I've supported Tomi Lahren when she's been under fire from other conservatives. Right? A lot of conservatives I know see Tomi Lahren as nothing more than an airhead, as nothing more than a blonde, to be honest, bimbo, who, is just there to look pretty. I mean, and I've defended her, even when she was in hot water for having a pro-choice stance. I defend her on my podcast and in one of my columns. I said that although I disagree with her on the pro-choice stance, I don't necessarily believe that should discredit her as a conservative and as a voice in the conservative movement. And I still stand by that, ladies and gentlemen. I still do. Nothing has changed with that. But I was very disheartened this week when I saw a video from her where she basically says that this whole thing with Kanye West supporting Trump is a sham and that conservatives shouldn't fall for it. Very disheartening. I'm going to play the clip and break it down for you. So this is Tomi Lahren's final thoughts on Kanye West. Cut number 1, go.
Conservatives, Trump supporters, and free thinkers, please do not attach yourselves to Kanye West. It will backfire. Mark my words, it will backfire. It's time for final thoughts. You know, I've been skeptical of Kanye's awakening from the beginning, but I mostly kept my mouth shut because I was cautiously optimistic. It's certainly true he always marches to the beat of his own drum, and for that I give him credit. He's unconventional and a loose cannon, but if he opens eyes and minds of a demographic largely unaware of the merits of conservatism, independent thought, and support for our president, wonderful. But this president did not win based on the whims of the celebrity elite. He won because he focused on the average American. So do not make Kanye or any celebrity a messiah. Just look at this TMZ interview on Tuesday. It was nothing short of disastrous.
I was addicted to opioids. I had plastic surgery because I was trying to look good for y'all. I got liposuction because I didn't want y'all to call me fat like y'all called Rob at the wedding and made him fly home before me and Kim got married. I didn't want y'all to call me fat, so I got liposuction, right? And they gave me opioids, right? And I started taking 2 of them and then driving to work on the opioids.
Oh, and what about this ridiculous theory?
You hear about slavery for 400 years? For 400 years? That sounds like a choice.
No, Kanye, slavery was not a choice. That's absurd. I'm sorry, but is that really the kind of messenger we want for the movement? Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay, now, a few things I have to point out here, and this is the perfect facial expression for me to pause on. I didn't do this on purpose either. But I find it interesting that this is where I paused with this facial expression. Okay? Tommy saying that we shouldn't rely on celebrities to, boost our movement. Excuse me. What was Trump before he became President of the United States, Tommy? What? Oh, he was a celebrity. What was Reagan before he became president? An actor. Right, so this whole thing about, conservatives, we can't put our faith in celebrities. And we can't embrace celebrityism. First off, no one is asking, Kanye isn't asking us to put our blind faith in him, and neither is Trump because they're celebrities. But both of them were and are using their platforms as celebrities, and in Trump's case, former celebrity, to open people's minds, and also in Trump's case, to actually make policy to help the country. But this notion that conservatives, that we can't embrace celebrities because they're stupid, granted, a lot of them are. But we do have some on our side, so don't crap on them. Expand the tent. Don't break it down. I mean, even Owen Benjamin and Dennis Miller are celebrities. They may be minor celebrities now, but they're still celebrities. Continuing on. Oh, also, quick note. I'm not sure if Tommy watched the full interview. She probably didn't, judging from what I'm hearing. Or Kanye's comment about drugs and the comment about slavery went so far over her head, and she clearly doesn't understand metaphors when she hears them.
But I think Kanye's change of heart has little to do with Trump, politics, or free thought, and a heck of a lot more to do with Kanye promoting Kanye as usual. This is a man who will do and say anything to be the center of attention. Remember this?
George Bush doesn't care about black people.
Or how about this? Oh, and this doozy. Look, Kanye is a businessman, and he knows how to get people talking about him better than anyone else, and it's smart on his part. So let me get inside Kanye's head for a minute. If I'm planning to drop a single in a week, what better way to promote it than nab all the headlines than to get the whole world talking about me? What is the most outrageous thing I could say to shock everyone? Oh, right. Come out in support of Donald Trump. That'll do it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe his love of Trump and conservative thought is genuine. But to be honest, who cares? Are we really going to put our eggs in Kanye West's basket? What happens when you flip the script next week or next month in a bid to nab more attention? Then what? We look like fools.
The irony of her remarks there is so delicious. Who cares? Huh? I don't know, Tommy. Didn't you go on The View about a year and a half ago and say that you were pro-choice? Didn't you mock and criticize some of the pro-life people for being too, obsessive with pro-life values? Didn't you say that some of them were, too stringent? For you to essentially say that, Kanye is unqualified to talk on issues, that is rich coming from you.
Appointing him our cultural messiah. Don't fall for it. Those are my final thoughts. Feel free to disagree. From LA, God bless, and take care.
But, Tommy Lahren is brilliant. She's the most brilliant commentator that we have today. She's such a true conservative, too. We need more Tommies in the world. That's what all of her fan girls, and admittedly some of her fan boys, would say. Yeah, Tommy's, this is what I had to deal with on Twitter yesterday. Yeah, Tommy's right. We shouldn't fully trust Kanye West. First of all, no one is saying that we fully should trust Kanye West or that we should put our faith in any celebrity. But give him a chance first. I'm at least willing to be open-minded about Kanye's effectiveness, and like I shared a while ago in my story, it is possible that Kanye is helping us to have a dialogue about these serious topics. It definitely is possible. And Tommy could be completely right, and we could all be being duped right now, too. But you know what? You know who else they said that about? Donald Trump. During the entire election season in 2016, the Never Trump movement, even after the election, they were saying, this is all a farce. Trump is a big New York liberal. We can't have him in the party. This is a fraud. In fact, they went so far as to actively try and subvert Trump's election by running that stupid Evan McMullin guy. Then at one point they were trying to start like a third party with Mark Cuban, of all people. who, granted, he may be a smart businessman, but politically he's not even on the, right. Well, he's not really even libertarian, he's just out there. So my point being, it's incredibly ironic that Tommy, Lahren is criticizing Kanye West, yet was complaining when a lot of conservatives were criticizing her pro-choice stance for more valid reasons. Okay, and the reason why I brought up that video of her and the final thoughts is because people were bringing that up, and that's kind of made the headlines too. So I wanted to address that as well. Look, as far as Kanye doing his thing right now with opening minds, I fully support it. I think it's great. I think we've needed a dialogue. Now this goes, we're not done with the show quite yet. This goes into another topic, into a bigger topic, which is, why am I spending so much time on Kanye West? Why have I spent 2 episodes now talking about Kanye West and the song and the TMZ interview? Why is this important? Well, it's important because politics is downstream from culture, as Andrew Breitbart used to say when he was alive. Right? This battle that we've been fighting against the left for the last 40 years or so, most conservatives have been approaching it economically, right, and policy-wise. And that is why, with the exception of President Ronald Reagan, we have generally failed at combating them. The left, economic Marxism here in America cannot happen. It just can't, because of the way that we've been established. Communists have tried to establish economic communism here in America. It's failed because of HUAC and because of the American spirit. It's not going to work. But cultural Marxism is where the left has one major point, ladies and gentlemen. Cultural Marxism, with the infiltration of the universities and of the entertainment complex of Hollywood and the music industry, the left has successfully instituted our cultural institutions, including academia and Hollywood, for the last 50 to 60 years quite successfully and without confrontation from the right, because, let's admit it, up until just a few years ago, the right was horrible, absolutely horrible when it came to being creative or to talking about cultural issues. And Andrew Breitbart talked about the dangers of cultural Marxism several times when he was alive. Dax in the chat, I don't know if you're still there, Dax, but Dax was the one last week in the comments who said that he wished Breitbart was still alive to see all of this coming to fruition. Well, I have a clip from Andrew Breitbart himself. This was back in 2011, 2012, shortly before his death. He was talking about cultural Marxism at the Heritage Foundation. This was shortly before he died, and he talked about the importance of why fighting the left's cultural Marxism is so important, and how we as conservatives can fight back. And luckily, conservatives and libertarians are finally starting to fulfill Andrew's vision of fighting back against the cultural left. But anyway, this is Andrew Breitbart at the Heritage Foundation. This is another 10-minute clip or so, which I will break down and analyze as we go along. Cut number 1, go.
We are the apostates. We are the ex-smokers who are furious when we see somebody lighting up. And so our outrage when we see liberalism in its hypocritical display, we're the ones who get the most outrage. And by hypocritical display, in my book I talk about, it's not that their economic stuff that makes me so angry, though it does. It's the cultural Marxism on the left that drives me crazy. The cultural Marxism that, in the guise of American studies at Tulane University, where I thought I was going to be reading Mark Twain and other great literary figures, I was inundated with rape lit my freshman in advanced freshman English. It was just, one book of victimhood after the other. I didn't even know what it was. I just was depressed. I'm like, is there a book that does not have haikus about rape? I don't want to read about rape anymore and oppression. It was so unbelievably depressing, but I didn't even know what it was. And when I graduated, and I started to realize that I graduated with less skills than I had entered, and the head of the American Studies department, who I liked a lot, sent me a survey when I was kind of figuring out that I was unemployable after college. What do you think of your American Studies degree? And I had so much free time that I actually started to read the books in greater detail than the first four pages of the chapter. You know how you would do that, like before you got into a class. And I go, who's Herbert Marcuse and who's Theodore Adorno and who's Antonio Gramsci, however they're pronounced, or Horkheimer. And I started to look into who these people were and what's this word deconstruction and what's repressive tolerance and what are these guys, what did these guys try to do? This is my Glenn Beck conspiracy, Dana, in the book. It's this is my billboard in my head of what happened to American society, how a country that fought so valiantly against Marxist ideas when they were aimed at the economic pillar of American society, they failed because middle-class American values worked. People came here with a nickel in their pocket. And, they'd say, hey, look, the boss is a really bad guy. We need to bond together and take down the owner. They go, no, I've got a widget that I'm working on that's going to make it so that we can make 20, things instead of 40 things. And I think I'm going to be able to create a company based upon it.
So what Breitbart mentioned right there at the end of this first segment is key here, ladies and gentlemen. Right? Economic Marxism didn't work in this country because we're innovators. We're natural innovators. Right? Even the factory workers are innovators. Now, granted, there were unfair practices in labor. We had unions. They fixed things, and now we don't need them anymore. It's no coincidence too that the unions have become a major tool of the left as well. But I digress. That's another topic for another time. Going back to kind of the beginning of the clip, Breitbart talks also about how his English Lit degree was useless after he got out of college. How this AP Lit degree was useless, and how when he was unemployed, he actually went back and started reading these books and, discovered pretty early on how foolish all of this was. Interesting. Very interesting. Now, Now he's going to go ahead and talk about how cultural Marxism got into this country. And this is fascinating because what you're going to hear, I mean, you've already heard some of the buzzwords. What Andrew mentions with cultural Marxism, you're going to hear buzzwords now that we hear all the time coming from social justice warriors. This is fascinating.
The left was never able to be victorious in its argument. Sure, there was a battle out there, but America was not really susceptible to the arguments of economic Marxism. But the cultural Marxists, and especially Gramsci, came up with an interesting idea. Where there was Marxist-Leninist thought, which was the revolutionary impulse, there was this idea of gradualism. Gradualism meant that we can kind of do this thing bit by bit and think of this as the long march through the institutions. And the cultural Marxists from the Frankfurt School, those people that I mentioned, figured out it's the cultural institutions that we need to walk through the front door and take them over. And they did it to academia. The post-structuralist model is what it's why our children come back from Thanksgiving after you hugged them and you gave them a stereo and bought them the little cool refrigerator and they said, I love you, Mom, I love you, Dad, it's a great thing, and they come back saying, why are we having Thanksgiving? Mom and Dad, you're oppressing Native Americans. It's why we have Whole Foods. We can't just buy crap that we like. We have to be reinforced that we're saving the world while we're buying that I don't know, name of expensive bread. Or prosciutto, expensive focaccia, and you can put it together and put arugula on. It's delicious. So anyway, that became my conspiracy theory, in essence, that the left translated economic Marxists from the haves versus the have-nots, the owner class versus the workers, to the oppressor and the oppressed. And they hit that every single day of our lives. I'll
say this. I'm going to pause the clip here. Andrew Breitbart was either way ahead of his time, which I think in many ways he was, or more likely he saw a lot of the social justice crap coming down the pipeline before it really took hold. Right? When he was alive, I remember it back in high school when I was like 2010, 2011, 2009, 2010, and then, 2011, which was my sophomore year. Breitbart was a big thing then, and Andrew Breitbart himself is the reason why I'm on Twitter. Back when Breitbart was still on Twitter, and back when I first joined Twitter, Twitter was actually still a relatively neutral platform, believe it or not. And conservatives could go on there and promote their blogs, or in my case, promote their podcasts. It was great, and Breitbart was really the one who influenced us all to start, creating our own media. And creating our own websites and our own blogs and creating our own content and promoting that on Twitter and Facebook and other places and being our own media and creating our own culture. He was brilliant at it. And in his lifetime, the modern social justice warrior movement was there, but it wasn't as big as it was it wasn't as loud or as impactful as it is today, right? I think the first big SJW movement that I can think of was the Occupy Wall Street movement, which, interestingly enough, Andrew spent the last year of his life, combating them and exposing them. By the way, ladies and gentlemen, I've talked about this on the Whitfield Analysis, my other podcast before, but I'll say again, quick footnote, Andrew Breitbart did in fact die of a heart attack. I know that whenever I talk about Breitbart, there are always people who like to bring up the conspiracy that the Obama administration had him assassinated. I've talked to Larry O'Connor and Ben Shapiro both personally about this, ladies and gentlemen, not to drop names, but they've both told me that Andrew wasn't assassinated. He had a congenital heart condition because he was adopted that no one knew about. And the thought is, and this is what I believe was true, that fighting Occupy Wall Street and sticking up for the Tea Party, it took so much stress, it was so much stress on him that he did end up having a heart attack. And it's tragic. Anyway, just had to make that quick comment. Continuing on with Breitbart's analysis on culture Marxism.
It's the theme of my book about why the Tea Party is attacked as being racist. Oppressor, oppress, oppressor, oppressed. You can't go on a TV show as a Republican. I was on Joy Behar the other night, and Stephanie Miller. I'm telling you, Joy was nice to me. Joy was a joy this time. But, and I liked her. I'm willing to like these people. I treat reporters, Dana, as individuals. I think that the entire racket stinks to high hell in its use of objectivity and neutrality as the cudgel. To pretend that you're neutral when you're not is the number one tool that the left uses in the media. Rush Limbaugh admits he's conservative. So does Sean Hannity. Just admit that you're liberal. Like God send Keith Olbermann and God send Rachel Maddow. I don't have a problem with those people. I don't. Because at least they're honest. At least the Huffington Post was honest about where it was coming. I created it, by the way. I went on the Joy Behar show, and they said, Alan West racist.
He did in fact create the Huffington Post, by the way. I'll get into that here in a sec.
Why? Because he said something about, Muslims. He said Islam isn't a race. But it's just racism. The Tea Party's racist. What do you mean? What did they do? Oh, we have evidence that the Tea Party is racist. MSNBC's Contessa Brewer pointed out when she showed a photograph of a man whose head was cut off holding a gun, implying that the Tea Party was racist and violent, and that nobody should leave their house and protest because dissent no longer is patriotic. And lo and behold, these evil bloggers who don't have enough fact checkers and don't have enough editors to protect us from ourselves found out that missing head was a black man, a black Tea Partier. And my big revelation was Clarence Thomas hearing. So race.
Now, this is important. I just kind of want to preface this. Breitbart is about to explain more or less his origin story for how he became a conservative, if you want to describe it that way. He explains how he became a conservative here, what led him to conservatism, because he was a default liberal prior to this, and it all has to do with the Clarence Thomas hearings. Very interesting stuff. I'll play this, I'll analyze, and then we'll wrap up the show.
It's the beginning for me. I was super politically correct. Will you be my friend, sir? Will you? I wanted a black friend so bad. You have no idea. When I was liberal, I did. And then George Bush said, like, the soft bigotry of lowered expectations. I was like, yeah, that made so much sense to me. And the Clarence Thomas hearings was clarifying for me. That was like the moment. I didn't have perspective at that point, but that was the moment that I realized that I wanted race to be my issue. When I saw that Clarence Thomas was the alignment of the press, the feminists, Eleanor Smeal and Patricia Schroeder walking up earnestly, and Peter Jennings, Dan Rather, like, ooh, this is the most serious thing we've ever discussed in the history of the world. And I was pro-choice back then, and I understood, even in my shallow liberalism, that I understood that the subtext of this entire thing was the abortion debate. I wasn't that dumb. When I saw that they were willing to invade his privacy to start grilling him on whether or not he rented pornography simply to embarrass him, to show that he's human and has a human flaw, and that the people who were grilling him were Caucasian, privileged, and in the case of Ted Kennedy, the dictionary definition of workplace sexual harassment. I started...
Vice President Joe Biden was on that committee, too, by the way. So yeah, between Ted Kennedy and Joe Biden, who were grilling Clarence Thomas, a black man, yeah, we had some real winners back then in the 90s. But thank God that happened, because Breitbart came over to our side early on and, created the modern conservative internet as we know it now.
Go, okay, I was rooting to take this guy down, and then when I saw the I believe Anita Hill bumpers, I believe Anita, I believe Anita what? That in 6 years of work, or 6 or 5, I didn't fact check it, but in working with him for years and years and years, she went job to job to job, rose through the ranks, got raises, and the worst thing that ever happened was he said that there was a pubic hair on a Coke can. I said, if you worked with me by lunchtime, something worse is going to be said. But I'm not Bill Clinton, who within 1 year became the standard bearer of the Democratic Party a year after the year of the woman, where sexual harassment was defined by pubic hair on a Coke can. Clarence Thomas woke me up, and the Bill Clinton thing got me angry. And I started to figure out what the hell just happened, because...
Alright, so that is the end of the clip. It kind of cuts off inconveniently there. The reason why I played the clip for you there is because Breitbart basically dissects what cultural Marxism is and why it's important that we fight it. So again, to all those conservatives out there who are saying, Sam, why are you spending so much time on the Kanye West thing? Why did you spend an entire episode and now 2 episodes of your show talking about Kanye West. He's a celebrity. Why should we even care? Because, folks, the left has taken over the culture for the last 40 to 50 years. And they have moved the Overton window, or as I like to call it, the pendulum, the clock pendulum of culture, so far to the left that we can't avoid it anymore. I was talking to one of my close friends today. It was actually I was talking to Joshua Johnson about this on Facebook. You know, guest on the show before, a regular guest, great guy. I love Joshua Johnson, love him, but he and I disagree on this Kanye West thing. He asked me, why do you like Kanye West and Candace Owens so much? They're engaging in identity politics, just like the left is. We're conservatives. We can't be doing that. And I said to him, and I'll say to you guys, I don't think that Kanye West and Candace Owens are engaging in identity politics necessarily by talking about the issues in Black America. That's not engaging in identity politics within itself. But even if it is, let's say his example, and look, he's not the only one who has said this. A couple other conservatives have said this to me as well. Okay, let's say that this premise is true, that Kanye and Candace Owens are engaging in identity politics. Even if that is true, ladies and gentlemen, we are at the point in America where we can no longer afford to ignore identity politics. I'm not saying that we should necessarily engage in it ourselves in the same way the left does. I think that's bad, and I think that I don't think that that's helpful at all. However, we just simply can't ignore it anymore, folks. We can't. We've tried to ignore it for the last 10 years. Under Obama, we tried to ignore it. We tried to talk about legislation, and we tried to focus more on economics, and we tried all that. But the left still has a stranglehold on the culture. Donald Trump won in a big way because he addressed cultural issues. And he talked about issues in the Black community. He said the Black community is broken. Your schools are no good. You guys have really high crime rates. What do you guys have left to lose? Vote for me. He addressed the issue front and center. And a lot of Black people in this country voted for him because he faced the issue head on. Kanye West is doing much the same thing in his music and in his records. Right? I read a lyric from the song Ye Versus the People. The problem with this damn nation, all blacks gotta be Democrats, we ain't made it off the plantation yet. That's a line from that song. And it's highly effective. That line has started a dialogue with people. That line has forced people to start dialogue with each other, even if they may disagree with each other, which is what Kanye's intention was, I believe. So Kanye is addressing the cultural Marxism in his way. Breitbart did it when he was alive. I'm doing it now on the Whitfield Report and in all my other activities with American Watchmen and with NGC and with the Unbearables. We can't afford to ignore the culture anymore, folks. We really can't. Politics is downstream from culture. Alright, let's read the comments before we sign off. Let's see. Stephanie said 400 years is absurd because it isn't true. Yeah, exactly. That's what Kanye was saying too. But they've had the mindset for 400 years, or a lot of them did up until recently. Let's see. Let's see. I agree with our Stephanie about Tommy. Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, Steph. So Stephanie in the YouTube chat, for those of you listening on the audio podcast, by the way, I have a live chat room on the YouTube live stream, and people can come in and comment during the show, which you can do when I'm live streaming on YouTube. The show usually airs around 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Saturday evenings, and goes until around 10, like we are tonight, and people can chat. So one of our listeners, I won't say her last name, but Stephanie was saying that Tommy is, ineffective and whatnot. And Stephanie, I do agree with your remark that she does more harm than good. I will say this. I think Tommy was effective in bringing a lot of young women into the movement. But I don't think she's she's not an intellectual heavyweight by any means necessary. And that's pretty clear. However, I also think that Tommy is a hypocrite. And that's my big problem with her now, is that she's a hypocrite. Let's see. Okay. Man, I miss it, Andrew. Oh yeah, I miss Breitbart too. As I said last week to Dax in replying to his comment, I miss Andrew too. I think he was a genius, and I wish he was still around to guide us. And it's interesting what you're saying, Tiffany, about him being a prophet and about the path that we were in now on. I mean, depends on what you define as being a prophet. I don't think that Andrew was necessarily a guy who had any huge he didn't have any major insights in terms of predictions, but I think he was good at reading the tea leaves, and he saw where all this social justice warrior stuff was headed, and he read the tea leaves. He read the tea leaves accurately, and he called things as they were. And yes, folks, he did co-found the Huffington Post with Ariana Huffington, and while I'm thinking of it, ladies and gentlemen, I do have a book recommendation for you all. If you haven't read his book yet, Andrew, before he passed away, he wrote a book in in 2012 called Righteous Indignation. Excuse me while I save the world. I'm pulling it up on Amazon right now for you guys to see. Here it is. I'm pulling up the web page right now. Okay, so here's the book. Righteous Indignation, Excuse Me While I Save the World. This is by Andrew Breitbart. It's dated a little bit, ladies and gentlemen. It was published on April 24th, 2012, so a couple of years old now. Breitbart basically talked about how he became a conservative. It's essentially his autobiography mixed with his guide on how the right can win battles using social media and using technology and using basically counter-cultural Marxism. It's a brilliant read. I'll link to the book in the show notes after the show is over. But yeah, if you haven't read this book yet, go look it up on Amazon. Again, that's Righteous Indignation, Excuse Me While I Save the World. I got this book on Audible when I first moved to Florida. So yeah, that was in 2013, 2014. He had already passed away by then. But it was very insightful to read, or in my case, listen to Andrew's story, basically about how he became a conservative and how he can win battles, and how we can win battles in the culture as conservatives. It's one of the best how-to conservative guides that I've ever read, and I highly recommend it to each and all of you. Alright, folks, and with that, I want to thank you all for listening to the program. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. I guess the overall message of the show this week is, let's not cut each other off from welcoming in people to this conservative movement. We need more allies more than ever, ladies and gentlemen. And so, like I said, Kanye is more than welcome in my view. I think it's a little bit hypocritical that Tommy was being so harsh on him, especially when, some vocal members of my audience don't think she's been that effective. And I'd like to thank everyone in the chat for interacting. Kimmy, Dax, Josh, aka Bicentennial Bear, Stephanie, Kimmy, B. West, and that's fine. I know that you were listening, and thank you for doing so, ma'am. I really appreciate that. Please, if you're on YouTube, comment and subscribe, and share on your social media platforms. If you're on iTunes or any of your audio podcast platforms, please leave us a 5-star review rating and give us a nice review if you would. And please recommend this to all of your friends and family. From all of us here at NGC Studios, have a good night. God bless. God save this great nation. And I'll see you next week, ladies and gentlemen, for our big special show with our guest, John Neary of Nee TV. He's going to be my guest next week. We're going to be taping the interview on the 8th, but it'll air next Saturday, same time, and we're going to be talking about every topic under the sun, from politics to faith to culture and everything in between. And I want to wish John congratulations. He just had his 100th show of Knee TV today on YouTube, so go and check his channel out. It's amazing. And like I said, folks, from all of us here at NGC Studios, good night, God bless, and God save this great nation. I'll see you next week. God bless.